So today I asked Francisco to come on and talk to us on the Creative Rant about the ups and downs of being a creative. Francisco is a South Texas portrait photographer who also happens to be a Sony ambassador. And despite all that, a pretty nice guy. I think it's pretty commonly known that he is a really genuinely nice guy. It's not fake. I had the pleasure of hanging out with him at Imaging USA in Nashville. That was the first time we ever met face to face, but we followed each other online for years.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw some questions at Francisco today. You could follow him at FJH Photo on most social media, right?
All yeah, pretty much. I try to keep it consistent throughout the social media. So it's FJH Photo, like you said.
Perfect. And you can check out his work on his website and his Instagram. He's one of the first photographers that started doing kind of an on photo layout explanation, pull back behind the scenes. I think I saw that on yours first, where you kind of drew in and really detailed it on what's happening behind the scenes, which has helped thousands of photographers grow in their field and always available to answer questions. So I don't know if you could introduce yourself, but take it away.
I'm pretty much just a nice guy that tries to help out, that just knows about photography and portraits. That's the thing that I got, I fell in love with portrait photography more than anything. And over the years, when I started to learn a little bit more and more, I started to gravitate towards off-camera flash and the look that you can get with off-camera flash and just the versatility of photos that you can take with off-camera flash. So I wanted to learn as much as I could over the years, and I did a lot of trial and error. So my trial and error, it sucked, and I took that as kind of like motivation to kind of help other people not go through the same thing and share all the things that I went through in the form of good advice. Like, don't use this light because this problem. And then I just kept doing that over the years for a long time. I started helping people out as early as like 2011, 2012. And over the course of the past couple of years, it's kind of where I picked up momentum since like 2015. So
nice.
I've tried to help people as much as I can learn about photography and off-camera flash and give recommendations. And I am a Sony ambassador right now, but that doesn't mean that if somebody comes to me asking for advice and say, hey, I shoot Nikon, or I want to shoot Nikon or Canon, I'm not going to be like, no, that's garbage, use Sony only. No. I like to I'm very honest and genuine. I don't want my ambassadorship to be something that's, that makes me seem like somebody that's not genuine. And I don't, if that were the case, I probably wouldn't have, become a Sony ambassador, because it would kind of conflict with that. But I think that I'm able to be a Sony ambassador and still be genuine and honest with people. So I really like that.
Yeah, that's good too. I like that. And I know you've had a couple of times where you've said community over competition. And I feel like the photography industry, they're very they just tear each other apart. There's more than one way to do things. The way that you do things isn't right for everyone. And you've even said that, like, this is how I do it. This is what I do to get this look. You're asking me how that is, and here it is. That may not work for everybody. So it is a tricky community to stay positive in and not have that negative approach. So I do, like, thanks for doing that. And that's kind of the purpose of this like Creative Rant, is to talk about those things that we do as creatives that we try to hide and say, like, social media is just fake. And it's what we want to show the world, right? Here's everything that I do. Here's, you're not going to put the worst stuff out there. And I think for people starting out, they tend to look at that and go, well, this guy's, his stuff's just perfect, and he's always been perfect, and there's no way that he has a bad day. And the point of this is to talk about those bad things in a positive way, and talk about the things that we kind of overcome as creatives and photographers, to do that. So let me hop into my first question, which is, what do you wish you knew? What do you wish you knew when you first started out? What was the one piece of advice you wish you knew when you first started as a photographer?
That's a very tricky question, because there's like, just thinking about that question on the spot, I can think of like a million things, and it's hard to just, focus on what's the one I wish I knew. For me, the way that I learned, I like to be very honest with people. I learned the worst way, the absolute worst way. I shot on auto mode with my camera, and the same thing, auto with my flash. I had so many mistakes, but the thing I think that would have helped me, is honestly, I hope this isn't too much of like an answer that's, I wish there was a better answer, but the exposure triangle.
It's like the politician answer. Like,
Yeah,
you just like talk it.
It's the in terms of like me learning photography, it'd probably be the exposure triangle, because I didn't know it for a long time.
Yeah.
And I took pictures for as early as 2007, 2008 with the digital, and I still have some of the images, and I could see the exit data, and I'm like, this is retarded. Like, why did I use this settings? So the exposure triangle would probably be the biggest thing in terms of me wanting to learn. But if I were to give like a secondary answer, it would probably be that that I need to grow thick skin, because I had some very weak skin in the first couple of years of photography, more than like 5 years, maybe like 4 years. So and I wish I had learned that above anything, so that I could handle the kind of the criticism without feeling like it's completely, like, I know, at least from gut reaction for me, when I hear negativity, it puts me off. It kind of makes it like one ear and out the other. So I wasn't very receptive to some of the small tidbits of knowledge that would have helped me learn faster. And if I had thicker skin, then I probably would be able to be more receptive to that. So I probably would say that's another thing that I wish I had early on, which is thicker skin. Because
I think that's a big challenge for creatives, is to take criticism and not make it personal. The reason is because your work is personal. You spent time making that work. You put your all into it. And how dare someone who wasn't there to experience what you experienced give you any advice on how to do that, right? Like, that's kind of the way you're doing it. What I learned a long time ago is that there's good criticism and bad criticism. And the challenge isn't really taking it. It's learning what to acknowledge and say, okay, that's a great perspective. And then it's learning what to ignore and say, okay, well, you weren't there and didn't know that there was a wall in my way.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's just not with photographers. That's with creatives in general. Designers, I've worked with tons of designers that they're horrible to work with because they don't take feedback well. And I try to look at it and go, okay, they're not attacking me personally. They're expressing how this photo or this design made them feel. And that has a value. How much value you give that is up to you, but it has a value. So, but back to the exposure triangle, because what's funny is I agree with you on that. I think that's a very important thing to learn technically. It should be the foundation of photography, learning it. The issue is that, did someone just upload that thing within the last 3 years? Because I don't remember that being available when I started out. And when I saw it, it was like, oh my God, this makes sense. Where it's like someone downloaded it, you know what I mean? And it was like, oh, by the way, here's a way to look at it better that actually makes sense.
Yeah. I think what you're kind of describing is like maybe like the influx of beginner kind of focused educational content, and then it wasn't so prominent back then, and now it's kind of like used as a marketing tool. of like, oh, okay, there's a lot of people wanting to learn. So here's this content that's going to be more, something that's what they should learn, I guess.
And visually, it just makes sense. I mean, if you're starting out in photography, look at the exposure triangle, and it makes sense. It just makes sense visually.
Yeah.
Back when I was starting out, people were like, "Oh, well, your ISO is this, and it does this," and then you're like, "That okay? What does that look like?" And maybe it did always exist, but I feel like it's one of those like, it's like the Kazam thing with Sinbad. Like it never really existed, and then like the powers that be downloaded it, and they were like, "What are you talking about? It's always been here." Like
the Mandela effect.
Yeah, the Mandela is that's the exposure triangle to me, but the opposite. So
it was always there. We just didn't see it.
We just didn't know it was there. Anyway, that's great answer on that. All right, next question. How do you get out of the inevitable creative rut?
The creative rut. Okay, so you mean like kind of like the writer's block of creativity?
Yeah. I'm uninspired. I don't feel like touching my camera. I just want to sell everything because everyone's work is better than mine. And you start like the self-comparison thing. How do you combat that? Because there's photographers that I won't follow online because they instantly make me feel that way. And I've made it in my mind that I hate them.
Yeah.
And I've never met them. They're probably amazing people, but it's what I have to do to stop myself from selling all my equipment. What do you do to get out of that?
That is such a very good question right now, because I'm kind of feel like I'm in that moment, and it's kind of like a perfect storm in the sense that I feel like this, and I was starting to feel like this, and then combine that with the fact that we can't even go outside and shoot right now. It kind of sucks in the sense that the things that I would do personally would be my best to just go out and shoot. The very last photo shoot that I did with a friend, Roland Sanchez, locally, it was one that I didn't have any motivation to just do it and to just take some photos. He invited me with the intent of, yeah, you're gonna shoot. Yeah, I want you to shoot, as well as, of course, we assist each other holding the lights and stuff. But I brought my gear kind of like not very enthusiastically, and thinking that I wasn't gonna want to take pictures, I wasn't gonna feel it. I was like, well, I was losing my what's it called, my mojo,
the groove, yeah. Motivation, yeah.
And I came into that shoot feeling that way, and as soon as I got there and I took a couple shots with off current flash, and I have to specify that because I don't really have like that wow with natural light. I like it. But with off current flash, it's because like you're creating it. Like I put the light here and I sculpted the face to this kind of way.
Yeah.
So honestly, and again, I feel like this is like not the best answer, but it honestly is like just having that drive to just go out, physically go out and do that shoot that you felt like you might not have wanted to do. I think that's what I was trying to say. But yeah, so that very last experience that I had, the very last portrait shoot, that was what I felt. I was not feeling so well. I felt like, I haven't shot in forever. What if I do the next shoot and I don't create anything I like? And I was feeling that way. Like I was going to take a picture I liked at all. And then I started taking photos and I was really liking the shots, and I had to share on Instagram. And if I ever do a photo shoot and I don't share anything from it on Instagram, you can tell that maybe I wasn't feeling that shoot. Yeah. Because I really, I've always had this drive of like, if I'm proud of something, I'm going to share it. Early on, when my work was bad, it wasn't, it was something that I'm like, okay, my work's bad, but I still kind of like this, so I'm going to share it. And now I feel like I'm more confident. Like if I really enjoy a shoot and I can share it without thinking about any sort of like, oh, this is bad, like the negative comments. But again, back to the question, it's honestly just kicking myself to do stuff. I'm very much an introvert, so I'm always home, either home or at a family member's house, my sister's family, my niece and nephew. They're kind of like a breath of fresh air. So sometimes I need that breath of fresh air, and I use that to kind of just to release. And then maybe the next day I'm like, okay, now today is going to be a productive day. Let's go ahead and do something. And I think holding myself to a certain extent, like expectations, it helps. But also, at the end of the day, I know that if I don't do something, immediately, it's not the end of the world. I can still get to it. So I try to. It's a weird thing. It's like I'm trying to go ahead and make myself very, dedicated, but also kind of. It's like a balance between, okay, if you don't do XYZ today, it's fine. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long-winded answer. Sorry.
No, I feel you. I think the other challenge too is that as photographers, there's layers of creativity. There's steps to accomplish a final photo. So there's planning out the shoot, shooting it, overcoming all the challenges on a location, with the model, with the lighting, with cars, everything, whatever. Then there's processing it, which can be, you can literally have those first steps down, get into Photoshop and just be like, ugh, I'm just in this rut of, like, I get that way where I'm just feeling my retouching. I'm feeling it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm not feeling this anymore. What am I doing different? I'm doing the exact same thing. Right. So I feel like there's a lot of challenges with photographers. It's not just, let me just create this. And it's not exclusive to photographers. I mean, videographers have the same thing. They have to set up shots. They have to edit. They have to do all this. Designers, same thing. But yeah, it's all of that. And I guess you can relate that to musicians as well, where it's like, I got this song written on paper. Now I have to put it into my system and process it and then master it. And now it sounds different. It's just like, it's a lot. But I think, I get what you're saying, where it's like push through it almost in a kind of summed up way. It's just keep pushing through it. It's very easy to look at your ideas and just be like, is this worth it? Should I do it? But every time that happens, it's you're kind of rewarded with something, some kind of reinforcement. So very cool. All right. Next question is, does your work get criticized?
My work, like at the moment. Yeah, it does. Honestly, over the years, I've gotten more of an understanding of how to handle that criticism. I have one dedicated person who just loves to not like anything I do. A hater. So I know
Nice.
when I get featured on F-Stoppers, that person's gonna comment and say this is garbage. But it's weird. It's a weird thing. It's like, what you can use your energy to do something else to better yourself. But I still do get criticized, not as much as I used to, because I feel like I know a lot more now. Over the years, I've learned, if I did something wrong or something failed, then I could go ahead and not do that. So my work does still get criticized, and I try not to kind of shine a light on that negativity. If on Instagram I do get that, I think I posted this past week that somebody said, like, your pictures are not attractive. The models that are in your shots look like lifeless dolls. And I'm like, really? Like, every time I share something on Instagram, I try my best to make it a shot that is at least a little visually appealing, as well as something that's very crucial to me is getting a facial expression that looks nice on the model, because I feel like that kind of creates some sort of intimacy between the viewer and the photo. And I always try to aim for that connection. If that connection is not there, then I usually won't share a shot. So that comment kind of got to me just a little bit, because I was like, lifeless. Like, I try my best to make it like that life to come through and shine through. So when I get some negative comments that just sting a little bit, I try my best to try to ignore it. And but I'm always in the battle with myself. I think, like, that's what we all do as creatives. Like, should I just completely ignore this person, or should I receive that? Should I talk back to them, like, in the sense of, like, in an understanding way, or in a negative way, like, no, shut up, this is, XYZ reason why you're wrong. So it's always like, which route do I want to take? So I think the best thing that you can do is, that's my website. The best thing you can do is to just
Billy, that is his website.
Yeah. I need to update it. So yeah, that's something I need to do too. But yeah, criticize.
So someone, my business partner Caleb gave me advice when we had a article go viral, a photo series go viral on F-stoppers before F-stoppers implemented like the community where you had to have a profile with a portfolio before you can comment. And it was about verbal abuse. And I went, the article went on there and he's like, do not read the comments. Oh. And I'm like, why? And then I read the comments and I was like, oh my God, I am a horrible person. Like, I'm just this, like, I'm not good. I'm just like, and then I've had them, some trolls online are masters. They're masters. They're as good at trolling as you are at off-camera flash. Like, they're legitimately, they will set you up to engage and then you're done. You're done. And they'll ask you something relevant to the photo and you're like, well, this isn't a bad comment. And then you comment and it's just, boom, it's done. I've been trapped and baited into those conversations before. So it is tricky, and the photography community is they're all masters. They're all the best. They're all rock stars. And it's like, you're really not, and neither am I. We're just photographers. We like to tell stories, and it should be that more community thing, but it's not. So my follow-up question to that was, how do you handle criticism of your work? Which you kind of touched on a little bit, but is there anything else you would tell someone who gets nothing but criticism on their work, like a creative starting out?
That's a good question, because if it's like in my instance, it's criticism that I receive, but I get more positive comments back. So that's a very good question. I think if somebody were to keep receiving the negative comments, I think it goes back to that thick skin kind of thing, where like maybe try to pick apart what these comments are saying to see if that actually is, part of your work. Like, I don't know if it, like if they say the background is a little bit too busy, and you intended to maybe shoot with the background in focus, maybe try to see if you can take their comment and be like, okay, the background's in focus, that's their criticism, but I wanted it to be in focus. So maybe think about why they don't like it in focus. Like, think about, try to dig deep a little bit, maybe to an understanding that they didn't even intend to comment with, because then you can kind of pick apart their comments and see, okay, maybe they have some points that I should go ahead and try to work with.
To implement,
Yeah, but I think when it comes to that kind of aspect, if somebody's continuously getting negative feedback, I think that's going to kind of affect their mind state. Like, it's just negative and negative. So I would say, like, to keep, I don't know, it's hard to kind of say ignore the, but then I also want to say, well, maybe they have a point and you can learn from that. So I think it's about finding how you kind of react to it, and try to go and kind of, like, if you react more of an understanding way, then that's the best thing to do. But if you know that you're going to be very negative towards the comments, like want to just argue with these people again, then maybe try your best to kind of not see the comments for a while until you get into a better place, maybe. Because if you read like 10 negative comments in a row, you're just going to feel like crap. So maybe read one or two and then take a breath and then read the rest.
I would look at it this way. If you have 10 negative comments on anything you've done, you have 10 comments, right? Like,
sure.
I mean, like, honestly, I would look at their advice and then go, okay, and then move on. But if someone's like, you said you have a guy that constantly comments, or a girl, whatever, girls can be trolls too. You have someone that constantly comments on your photos. It's like, I mean, get a life, man. Are you jealous of, it's like, I mean, honestly, they're talking about your work, man. So it's like, clearly there's something bugging that guy. And it comes off as like it's almost like a compliment at some point, where it's like, hey, there you are. There you go again. Like, you take time out of your day to come to my work and comment. Like, I mean, it's one thing, you know, if they're getting out of control, it's one thing, but a comment's a comment, and a comment is engagement, and whether it's good or bad, I think as a tool, you should look at it and go, okay, I see where they're coming from, but I also made this choice because of the elements that I was up against. And that's the challenge is I think people get offended by comments when they're not completely confident on their level of what they're doing to then fight it and go, no, here's why I did that.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? Like, or they don't feel confident enough to do that. So with the Weapon of Choice project, people, you know, they said, they were like, oh, the photographer forgot to fix the neckline on this kid. His necklace is crooked and it's a horrible portrait because nothing's controlled. And it was like, I did that on purpose. I made the choice to do that. So I think it comes back to the rule of, you know, they say it's art, there are no mistakes. That's not true. I think if you break a rule and you don't know it, that's a mistake, and people point that out. If you break a rule and you do know it, that's art. And that's where you can go, yes, I know I broke this rule and here's why. And it should show in your photos to where you don't have to justify that. And the other problem too is that it's art and it's subjective. I mean, there's some god awful work out there, god awful work. And I don't make any comments because I see people enjoy it. So if people are enjoying it, who am I to say, well, this isn't that good? You know, but that's where we live in. There's so much work out there. So what's the best advice you've ever gotten from another creative?
From another creative. Oof. See, that question is a struggle for me because I had a lot of years of learning on my own, and I had a lot of years of trial and error. I'm very much a good example of being the product of trial and error in my mind, because I had those instances where I was looking for education online and reaching out to photographers that I thought their work was pretty good, and getting no replies back at all, getting lost in learning these different methods that I wanted to know more about, but I didn't know what the name was or things like that. So I don't know if I can even come up with an answer for that. I think that'd be my answer, because it was just a lot of self-learning. It's why I share as much as I can. But if I could think of something, it could. I'm trying to dig deep here.
Yeah,
it's something. It's something that I didn't probably get directly towards this person. But I did read about. I think it was Pratik Nayak. He's a retoucher, kind of like world known. But I think it was something to do with SLR Lounge. I think he was interviewed by them, and he said something along the lines of, what people don't realize is that every image that you look at was retouched. It was, it was altered a little bit. It was, there was a lot of production, a lot of post-processing involved in that final result. And a lot of people don't realize that when you take a shot and it doesn't look amazing right then and there, like these end results that you're seeing on these magazines, that there's not a lot of people that come to that realization that you might take a shot and it looks awesome to you on your camera, you bring it to Lightroom or something, and then you see it bigger and it's not as good as you thought it was going to be, but still not seeing that there's a lot of potential there. This is still a great shot. These are the these things that these companies did, and the people that they hired to do this job, is there. People don't realize that a lot of work goes into the final result. And I think that's the thing that I kind of was most receptive to especially when I read that, which is, I think I want to say 2012, maybe 2013. I read that interview. This is long ago. So I was like, yeah, I didn't realize that. When I read that, I didn't fully realize that. And it kind of helped that he was a retoucher and that was his job, and him kind of just saying that in the interview to kind of just shine a light on the reality of it. I think kind of really helped me out because I might take a shot the next day and I think it's okay. And I do a little bit of work to it, and I kind of massage it in a better direction than it was, the potential. So I think that's probably the best advice I was given indirectly. And
So don't judge your straight out of camera work with a polished published photo.
yeah,
I agree with that. I had a similar experience where a photographer, I was doing a lot of weddings back then, and a photographer uploaded a video of him going through his raw photos. And I
oh,
was like, oh, they're underexposed. They're overexposed.
that's awesome.
These look like crap like mine. And like I felt like a hack because I was always like, I was going in the Lightroom and adjusting everything.
Yeah,
And he was like, the reason why I do this in post is because my clients are, as long as the photo looks good in the end, they don't care. And they're not hiring me to fiddle with my camera in the corner. They're hiring me to give them an experience. And I was like, yes, this is so. Yeah, I agree. That's really good advice.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I think not a lot of photographers do that. They don't share like all the raw
Yep,
files. They don't share the reality.
exactly. And again, it goes back to the life, the I don't know. They do somewhat share it, but it goes back to that kind of curated reality that social media is. And as a creative, it can be very just like it could be damaging to what, why isn't this happening? And if you're not savvy to like the reality of it, it could, again, there's photographers out there that I'm like, I know their work doesn't look like this out of camera, but
Yeah,
it's just so amazing that I have to not watch their stuff. I have to look away. Yeah, it's crazy, but all right. So the last two questions I have, these are kind of like the standard questions that I ask is, what is the one thing you hate about being a creative?
wow, that's a very good question.
Hate. You have to hate it.
Hate
But
it.
yeah.
Um, that's a very good question. I
I
think,
know there's something. I know
yeah,
there's something.
I'm trying to think because it's such a lot of work to kind of get into like I'm trying to be as much as I can, try to be a very positive guy and
I
smile.
know.
It's very natural to me. So when I have to shift focus, shift gears into that
I
hate,
know.
it's like, okay, I need like to shift into that mode. But
So when I wrote this question down, I knew I was going to follow. I was going to kind of lead in with like, listen, I know you're a positive guy, and it's true. Like I've never heard you say a bad thing about anyone, but there's stuff that as a creative, I mean, I could tell you right off the bat, the customer's always right is a problem that I have with
uh,
being a creative. And I hate having to train and manage expectations with clients, right? So there's always something that other
yeah,
creatives, the idea behind this question is other creatives are feeling this and they're like, well, they have to be experiencing this as well. So it's a tough one for you. I know
but
it is.
I'm gonna try to shift that question like back. I'm gonna shift it back into my kind of area where the positivity. It's a negative question, and I have a
So,
negative answer, but I shift it in there.
so I do have a follow-up. The follow-up is, what is
Okay.
the one thing you love the most about being a creative?
Okay.
And I
So,
ended on a positive note, but do the hate one
yeah.
first. Yeah.
So, I honestly hate. Was this with the entire photography industry, or something like just photography, like taking pictures, or just
It could be as a creative in general. It doesn't have to be specific to photography.
okay?
I don't look at photographers as just photographers, by the way. You'll notice that I call everyone creatives.
Yeah.
I feel
Okay.
like we're so much more than just photographers. I feel like
Yeah.
we're doing design, we're building our websites, we're doing videos. You're more than a photographer. You do content beyond that. You know what I mean? So you're creative.
So I think the answer that I can give is that I honestly hate it, and I already feel it inside my core. Like this, when I get angry, I feel like shakiness, and I feel it in my core. So I think I'm kind of going I think my mind is in the right spot for this answer. I hate when people like they put up a front. They're not who they are. They put up this false persona to sell things. They I hate the idea of salesmanship. Honestly, I know this is like it kind of like it's a bad thing to feel as a creative, especially with like IPS sales. I've always hated the idea of salesmanship. That I feel like this thing is okay, but I'm gonna sell it to you like it's amazing and there's nothing nobody else could ever do to make that thing better.
Just to get paid.
Just to get paid. I honestly I've told my fiance this before. I've told other people before that if it was just me by myself, if I had no family, no friends, I could probably be living in a small little box of a studio or a room and be fine with the computer and the camera. And that's it. I'm very much not a materialistic person. I hate that idea of materialism. And again, it kind of always goes back to that fakeness. Like you're an ambassador for this company, so everything else is garbage. No, there's a lot of pros and cons to different systems. You're an ambassador for this lens company or this photo printing company, and so that you're never gonna you're tied into that ambassadorship, so that you're narrowing your mindset and your views just so that you can sell this company's product to make them money, to make you money, and you're kind of limiting yourself in so many ways by just being stuck in that salesmanship of these companies. I think just not being who you are and genuinely feeling certain ways, I think that has always bugged me about anything. Like if it's a TV show that like there's some suspension of disbelief that I give to movies and stuff, where it's obviously not going to be real. But when people I know and I see them and act certain ways, and then the camera gets in front of them and they act like a completely different person, or they push this lens that they said was okay, like it's the best thing ever. It kind of like freaks me out a bit. It's kind of like something in here is I'm like, what's going on? Like I don't understand. Yeah. So I mean, I'm an ambassador for Sony because I firmly believed in their system early on. It's kind of gotten more popular with the autofocus, of course. Now that different companies have that. But for me personally, I am ambassador for Sony because I believed in their product, and they actually picked me up at a time where I needed like that confidence. And them showing interest in me was very much bringing me into a more confident person. And I never try to take on any kind of ambassadorship or anything that I don't fully believe in. So I like Godak's products because I fully believe in them, and I love that they're more affordable than another company. But
like a lot more affordable.
Yeah. there's some people that want to be these ambassadors for the more expensive person, so they share nothing but that company's product and all the photos that they took with that product. But then I go and find out from a friend of a friend that at this shoot they also shot with this the cheaper guy, and I'm like, but why? How does that make sense? Like it's kind of that it works.
I think people see through that too. So you're not necessarily against the salesmanship. You're against you like authentic, genuine people. And when people are throwing products at you, it's very difficult to be like, well, I'm going to be honest about this. You know what I mean? So like when we do reviews, and I found myself doing that with some, we got some products in that people were like, can you review it? And it's like, yeah, I'm going to be honest. And then I'm like, wow, I really like this. So we shouldn't say anything negative about it because I don't want to send it back, but it comes off as fake. And the truth is that negatives are good, because if I promote a product and then someone gets that product and they find that negative, they may think that they're doing it wrong. So it's not good to do that. And to be honest, if these people who sent me products that called me up and said, I want my products back, I'd be like, okay, here you go. Clearly you can't handle the truth of your product and the limitations of it. Every single product has a pro and con. And it's not a bad thing to say that. I mean, it's not bad to be like, yeah, I shoot with Sony. Here's the pros. Here's the cons. And this is because it's a tool. And if you look at Sony cameras as a tool and Nikon cameras and Canon, they're tools for the job. What is the best one to get the results that you want? So authenticity and being genuine.
I think I kind of got a little bit understanding of what I was saying in regards to my answer. And I think it's that, and it comes back to community, because it kind of is with those ambassador programs. It's kind of shifting people into one party rather than kind of just saying, oh, why can't we all just get along? So I think that's another thing, another aspect of it that bugs me. Like
I think what bugs me is when they just make shit up. Like, honestly, it's like, come on, like, when they're, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. They're like, they'll sit there and be like, it's the quality of light. You're talking about light consistency. And it's like, what are you talking about? Look at this photo to this photo. It's different. And it's like, no, it's not. You are making shit up. And I see right through it. And everyone else sees right through it. Because the truth is that, and the other thing is that I've seen these other competitor lights, and I've gone to their booths and I've given them all an equal shot. And I go up and I go, hey, you don't have this. I mean, Pro Photo tried to peddle, I think it was the B1 a while ago. I was doing hypersync on my interfits, which cost me $300, and it was a mistake in the light. Like, I don't even think they knew that it did hypersync, right? So, and then I go to Pro Photo and I'm like, hey, do you guys do hypersync? This brand new $2,000 light that has a detachable battery. Do you do hyper? No. Are you gonna do it? Well, no. And they told me this was back in 2014, and I was like, well, even if I could afford your light, I don't want it. It's not the tool for me. And then, you get all these ambassadors that are like, the thing you have to understand with more expensive light is it's the quality and consistency of light. It's like, whatever, dude. Okay. Whatever. You just made that shit up because you have nothing else to sell. So
I fully agree with you.
I hear you, and I don't care because I'll say it. You don't have to say it. I'll be the negative one with that. I'll call them out on that, and I'll be the guy in the comments that says that. So, all right. Last question is: what is the one thing that you love about being a creative? If you could pick one thing, and I know that's tough, but what do you love the most about doing what you do?
It's honestly, I can think of this answer really, really quickly. Compared to the last question, it's just the networking. Honestly, I can't think of any other creative outlet or career that I could have taken on that wouldn't have given me the same kind of ability to network with other people across the entire world. And through photography, it allowed me to do that. It allowed me, through this shared common interest, it allowed me to connect to so many people. And obviously I'm not in the world of other kind of community-based hobbies or careers or whatever, to know if it gives them that same extent of that network. But for me personally, with photography, I've met so many amazing people. I've met, you virtually and then in real life. And I met so many people and connected with so many people because of this one shared interest, which is photography. And that's the thing I love the most about it, because a lot of people don't, I don't know if this comes across, in my videos, but I'm very much an introvert. Like, if I'm not around people that I feel comfortable with, like family member, more than likely I'll feel drained. Like I will just drain energy and I'll get tired. It's nice that I didn't feel that around you when we hung out, because
I have so much energy. It just
I don't know. It kind of like it balances it out. But I'm glad that I've been able to network with so many people for so long over the years. It's never been a point where it kind of just went away completely. It's every day I have the chance to network with somebody on Instagram, Facebook comment, YouTube comment, all these different platforms and access of social media. I'm able to connect with people. And if if there's ever a case where, this person gets bored of me or whatever, it's totally fine. I feel like when I help somebody, if I help them get to this point faster or at all, then I've done my job. I like to help people out. And if the lack of communication starts to happen, it's because I know that it went in a good direction. They learned something, they got, better. They didn't need my help so much. And I'm able to connect with more people every day still with fresh, I just got my camera. I just bought it last week. I just bought it this past half year. Yeah, that networking is just it's extremely so rich that I've been able to just endlessly talk to people and get to know people. And it's just unbelievable to me. I've never thought that me as an introvert, the quiet guy in my family, the guy that I actually moved to many schools, about like 12 elementary schools. And it kind of sucked having to get to know everybody over and over and over. So I just kind of quit. So, yeah, me as an introverted person growing up and very shy, I never thought at all that I'd be well known or known outside of my area. And it's up to that point. So it's just crazy to me.
Yeah, and I mean, to your credit, I don't think you're as introverted as you think you are. And hear me out. I just think you don't want to deal with the arrogance of other photographers. So I think the drainingness is when you're around these people, it's just like, ugh, that personality again. But I attended one of your walks at Imaging, and I mean, it's I think if the situation is where you want to be, I think you're fine with it. And I think the introvert is like the exhaustion and the drainingness is because people are stealing the energy from the room. And it's that arrogance that comes from photographers. I've been in the same situation where there's just some photographers I'm like, dude, you gotta go. I mean, you're killing the vibe. You're making me an introvert. I think I'm an introvert. It must be me. It can't be someone else, right? So I think in our industry, it's a little bit, especially during photo walks. I mean, there's times where I could just walk right up to a photo walk and I'm like, oh my God, why did I come here? Why did I do this? And I made it a point. One of my personal projects for a while was to pay and attend photo walks to get myself out there and push myself out of that comfort zone, and attend them as a creative. But I feel your pain because sometimes I'm just like, I'm not dealing with that guy. I'm just not dealing with that person, and they just suck all the energy out of the room. And in photography, it tends to be that way. And the last thing I want to do is walk up and compete with someone on why I'm using a certain setting I'm using. I hate the guys that come up and try to quiz you. Like, oh, what setting are you on? And I'm like, auto, get away from me. I don't need to justify myself in front of you. Like,
you're right. I think in instances where I felt that drain, it was similar vibes to that.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't vibe with your arrogance, your XYZ. So it just kind of like just brings me down. And I
agree 100%. I mean, and it doesn't come off in your videos because I don't think you truly are an introvert. I think you just don't like people who drain the room and the energy, and it's not worth it. And no one does. So, yeah, I mean, the walk that you did there where everyone was positive, I mean, you would have kept going if you could, if people didn't have to leave. So that's not the trait of an introvert. An introvert would be like, I'm out of here. I'm not even setting this up.
Oh, really?
So yeah, okay. I think, but I get what you're saying. I mean, your number one thing that you like is the fact that you've been able to meet different creatives with a common goal of creating and telling stories. And it's brought you, like very rewarding things. But I think that's credit to your positivity. I think people attract to that positivity because I think your attitude is unfortunately rare in this industry. I think that people are, I mean, I was watching a live feed the other day and I'm not going to call out the photographer, but I will say what he said. And I unfollowed him. He was a local photographer in Orlando and he was on his feed with a model and he's got thousands of followers on Instagram. And someone made a comment and he's like, he's like, oh, there are no good photographers in Orlando. None. They're all horrible, horrible photographers. And it was just so arrogant because it's not true. It's not true. And, he moved to another state and now he's still doing, I don't care what he says, he's doing free work. He's not making money off of this. It's one of those photographers who just, they act like they're making money off of it, but they're really not.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, and it's fine because they're making money off of their followers and they think that makes them a successful photographer, but it doesn't. And the truth is that's how you lose followers, because no one wants to deal with that arrogance. Because what you just did was you said there's not a single good photographer in Orlando. That's every photographer in Orlando that follows you for inspiration is now below you and nothing, right? So it's just it's that kind of attitude that's like, man, we can do without that in photography or life in general. I won't follow him, and I think his work's unoriginal, and I won't say that to him.
I totally agree with you when it comes to that kind of mentality. I always get shut off. I don't think that I try to be as humble as I can, not because I am trying to act humble to sell this image of me being a humble person. I honestly don't think that, my work is going to be so greater than somebody who just started last week. Like, they have the tools and they have the knowledge. They could take better photos than I could if they have a better eye or a better retouching skill. Like, it doesn't matter how long I've been doing this in the industry or how long I've been, focused on one specific thing, portraits only, not landscape or something. If somebody wants to, they could be better than you. And I never think, I can't wrap my head around that mentality of, there's no other photographers that are better than me in this area.
The key is that, and the difference is that you want them to be better than you. Yeah. And that shows. So like you saying you could be better than me is not your goal. You actually want them to be better than you. You're not sitting there trying to like eliminate competition for a potential client. You're genuinely hoping that someone is better than you. And that comes off, and that's the genuine authenticity that people attract to. It's the reason why you have the followers that you have. And I do remember, it was probably 8-9 years ago now, but I remember seeing your posts in groups and seeing the progression of that happening. And it's that mentality that got you to where you are, is that you genuinely want to share the passion of photography, not just, like people, they have, if I give away my secrets, people they're going to steal my job or they're going to steal my clients or something like that. Right.
Yeah.
And that's never come off with you. And your motivation is very clear. So, there is no secret to why you have the following that you have on Instagram. And by the way, if you guys are watching, follow Francisco at FJH Photo on social media. He needs a couple more followers, especially on Instagram. But no, if you want to see work that's truly not just awesome work, but also work that that shows you how to accomplish the work that he's doing. I don't think there's a single photo on there anymore that's just a straight photo. I think it all has some sort of here's how to accomplish this.
Yeah.
But the truth is that most people won't, because they're still going to come up with excuses on why they can't get it done. And that's the real downfall of creatives, is they need to get their asses out there and do it.
True.
And try it and come up with their own ideas. So
yeah, I'm a very lazy person. I honestly believe that. But when it comes to photography, I shift into, I kick myself to do these photo shoots. And I think I'm glad for that kick, that passion, that drive, because I have, like you said, I've talked to people before where they're like, oh, I bought my camera and it's been in the box on the shelf for 6 months. I'm like, how does that work out? You bought it. Why did you buy it? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've thought about it before, and like you said before, I genuinely want to help people out, and I think that's just always going to be my goal. Like, if I can help one person and even just a little bit, then I'm happy. Like I get satisfaction from knowing that I can help people out, and I'm just going to keep doing that as much as I can.
Yeah. No, and that's awesome. Very cool. Well, we'll end it on this note. Thank you so much for hanging out and answering these questions. I didn't send him any of these questions beforehand because I wanted to put him on the spot and really get like genuine answers. So anyway, yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for the comments, Billy.
Yeah.
And this will be available on YouTube right away. And you can replay it on Facebook as well.
Yeah.
It's a little bit too long for Instagram at the moment, and maybe one day Instagram will come around and let us live stream directly to it.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But if you can hang out for a second, I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast, and we'll see you guys later.
Bye.